Hey everybody, it's Jason Will. Just want to take a quick second to remind you that my Impact Agent University conference is happening this April 11th and 12th, 2019 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Get your tickets at impactagentuniversity.com and use promo code JASON10 for a 10% discount off your tickets. Ready? Ready to rock and roll? Is that action? All right. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Absolutely. Go. Go.
Hello everybody, it's Jason Will with
Go.
So this is a real estate podcast, but we talk about leadership, personal growth, and becoming the best version of yourself. Leadership, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Growth, best version of yourself.
Go.
So this is a real estate podcast. All right, Andi Cummings, welcome to the Impact Agent Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Where are you at right now?
I am in Charleston, South Carolina.
And do you love Charleston?
I do love Charleston. I'm a Southern girl at heart, born and bred in Alabama, grew up in Atlanta, and now I call Charleston home.
What's your title? What does Andi Cummings do?
I'm actually a realtor here on the Matt O'Neill real estate team. We are the #1 luxury team in South Carolina, and I'm also a lead generation trainer and coach. So I do both. Wow.
Okay, so let's dive into that. First, about the lead generation coaching part. Who do you do that through? What exactly are you coaching people how to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I have about 20 years in sales training experience. I came from big corporate world, training some Fortune 500 sales teams, new agents, experienced, as well as managers. And I took that and I shifted it over to real estate when I started working at Boomtown. So a lot of boomers are familiar with Impact, and I know that they'll be there. And a lot of people considering Boomtown will also be there. But I actually was one of the trainers teaching lead gen training for Boomtown clients. And then I also developed the coaching program for Boomtown. So I specifically developed how to really get the most from lead gen skills out of your Boomtown platform and online buyers in general. And then I switched gears and I went over and I led an ISA team. So I was the director of lead gen for a Keller Williams team. And I had 4 ISAs and junior agents that I recruited and trained and taught how to prospect. So I've taken all of that experience, my sales training experience, my Boomtown experience, and my lead gen experience, and I've packaged it to be able to take it to market as my own coaching company, helping clients figure out how to really help their agents dial in prospecting.
Is there a place where we can go to see where you'll be offering your next training? Because is this group style training?
Okay, so I do a couple of things. I do weekly coaching, and then I do group training that's both virtual, as well as I love to go out to teams, and I'll teach a day-long class, and then I'll spend the next day doing one-on-one coaching, listening to calls, being on the floor. I find that I can do that virtually, but it's much more powerful when I'm there on site. So I lead that class, and then we do coaching the next day. And in answer to your question, I am actually taking on a few clients right now with coaching. I've got a lot of business happening right now with my real estate business, so I'm focused there. But I do have some more opportunities. Anybody interested that can absolutely ping me.
How do you want them to get in touch with you if they have a team and they want to bring you in for Boomtown training?
Well, first of all, they can absolutely hit me up here on Facebook, or you can find me on the Matt O'Neill real estate team. And then, the best way really to get me is just shoot me a quick email. I'm Andi, ANDI, at mattoneillteam.com. And I'll be happy to set up a Calendly appointment, and we can just talk about what the needs of the team are.
Okay, awesome. So lead generation, specifically internet lead generation, online lead generation, is what my whole team is built on. I'm trying to think when we launched our Boomtown site, but it was like late 2009, early 2010, somewhere around in there. So, had Boomtown for a while, and it's transformed my whole business. But there really is, Boomtown's an amazing tool, but if you don't know how to process these leads, you're really paying a bunch of money for nothing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I saw is a lot of team leaders going out there, buying this, top of the line lead gen CRM tool, and then feeding the agents with tons of leads that were just sitting there in the database, right? So I actually teach a couple of things. First of all, I teach the process, just how do we work the leads? But then I also teach skills. It's really about how to have those calls, how to get the appointment set, and how to make sure those appointments are kept. So I do a little bit of technology, I do a lot of sales skills, and then I do a lot of just relationship building with clients as well. And then after I left Boomtown, I also started focusing on sellers. So I also teach, how, scripts for expireds and FSBOs, how to treat sellers differently than buyers, and really how to hit those goals based on what that percentage is that you want to focus on in buyer versus seller.
How important is the scripting to this process, would you say?
Critical, right? So one of the first things I do when I teach a team or coach a team, I put them what I call on the hot seat. Let me see your script for this kind of lead source. Let's role play your script for another kind of lead source. And then I can start to gauge right then and there where we need to fine tune some skills. I take that and then I couple it with the technology. Okay, let me see where you are with your CRM practice and what tools are you using to engage with clients? What different mechanisms are you using? And how do you kind of blend those engagement techniques with different types of leads?
Now, my experience is that, the fear of the phone is a very real thing.
Absolutely.
And most of the agents I talk to are petrified. We actually, we still do use Boomtown to power my real estate team and my entire brokerage.
Okay.
Now, we were investing in leads. So I thought, hey, it works for my real estate team. I'm going to, have a separate lead generation program for my independent agents, and I'm going to charge them a small referral fee on the backside for anything they close. And this really went over, not very well, because people, they have these preconceived notions about the quality of the lead.
Yep.
And really, I think it's not the quality of the lead, it's their vetting or lack of. They don't know what to say. They don't know how many times they're going to call. But how often, just out of curiosity, how often when you go to meet with these teams in person, do you really figure out that it's not the lead, but it's really the problem is more their fear of the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the number one thing around prospecting and calling is mindset, right? So I teach a lot about, first of all, how to manage your day so that you are dedicating time to prospecting. You're protecting that time. You're making sure that lead gen is part of your daily activity. I don't care how many fires you need to put out or what's happening. You got to find time to keep the pipeline full. So we focus a lot on just habits of having really good prospecting habits. The second thing that I like to focus on is getting your headset ready and prepared for making calls. And a lot of times what I see, the number one killer is overthinking it, right? I'm scared of the phone. I don't know what to say. And I've got all of this training that's up here that's given me all of these tips and tricks, and I've got to make a call. And so I can hear it instantly. And I like to listen to calls with agents. I'm like, come on, I can listen in or I can listen to a recording. And when I hear that fear, then I know where I can coach to it. It's very natural. Agents like to be in front of customers. A lot of them just, their home run is face to face. So when I have to pick up the phone and call, I have this anxiety around it. And so how do we overcome that anxiety? And one of the things that I say all the time is having a natural conversation is so important, right? You can, and your natural conversations will come by knowing your script and really having that script memorized and understanding that lead source. Super important. Not all lead sources should be treated the same, right? I don't talk to a Zillow buyer the same way that I talk to a pay-per-click buyer. And I certainly talk to sellers completely differently. So, having the right script and being prepared to address that lead source and being a rock star at that lead source, and then it'll come naturally. And you'll gain that confidence. You'll start to see your appointments, your conversion rates go up, and then you get to feel comfortable in that lead source before we move on to the next one. Some people are just naturally gravitate towards a particular lead source, and I say, great, go crush that. Feel very comfortable with that until you hit the next one, because you're going to fail forward on that next one, and you need to be prepared for that and to accept it and remember the learning process you went through when you just first started out with the one that you've mastered?
Okay. So let's just pretend here for a second that I am one of your current coaching clients.
Okay.
And we've been working together for quite some time. And I feel like I've got the scripts down. I know how to differentiate between a Zillow call, a sign call, whether it's pay-per-click, all that stuff. But Andi, I'm so scared because I'm afraid they're going to ask me a question I can't answer. I'm afraid I'm going to get an objection I don't know how to overcome. How would you talk me through that?
Well, first of all, I always say, no matter what your experience is, you are the expert, okay? You are the expert. They're calling on you because, or you're calling them because you are the expert. That doesn't mean you have to know every answer. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the perfect answer is, let me get back in touch with you. Let me research. Let me find out. Can I call you back this afternoon after 5 to share with you what I've learned? Or when is a great time? Would you be driving home? And so it gives you an opportunity to re-engage. Go do the research. First of all, don't give the wrong answer, especially if you have somebody, that might be a high C, right? They're going to call you out on it if you're wrong. So it's okay not to know, but tell them that you're going to go work for them and find out and set up the next time when you're going to deliver the answer to their question. And then they're handling objections. Once you get into learn the process of handling objections, there is a rhythm to it, right? So, and I think I have found that there's probably only about 30 or 40 common objections.
Right.
You're going to learn how to handle them. They're just going to come up, right? So once you experience them, really master that and then try it out again. Again, I always say it's a numbers game. We don't get this one, we'll get it the next time.
Right. And that falls in line with the whole fail forward. You just got to keep learning. The failure is a learning experience. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's how we get better. That's how we fail. So a couple things there that I want to make sure people pick up on. Number one, that they're once they get consistent with these calls, there's rarely going to be an objection that's a curveball. I mean, you said there was about 30 that are frequently used. And it's across buyers and sellers. You're going to hear them say the same thing over and over again. So you're going to get really good at responding to that. Now, I've also found that if somebody asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, or maybe my brain's not firing that quick that morning or something, I can acknowledge it. And I can say, oh, that's a great question. Before I answer it, I want to dig a little bit deeper. Why is that really important to you?
Absolutely. That's what we call cushioning the objection.
Ooh.
Okay. So the first thing you do is you agree with the objection, right? The objection is their objection. And for whatever reason, they have in their mind that this is what's right. So the first thing I do is just affirm the objection. I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. And then I cushion it because somewhere in there, I gotta dig in a little deeper. And so, I'll say, Jason, tell me a little bit more why you feel that way. And what I'm doing is giving you an opportunity to open up, right? Then I can start to handle the objection. If I come right out of the gate and you tell me you want to wait until spring and I immediately jump into the answer for how to handle spring, right? Every other agent just did that. I want to get to the point where you trust me enough to tell me exactly why that's important to you. And I have enough information to be able to handle it so that it matches exactly what your message is that you're trying to convey to me.
Yeah,
and then I'll close it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where was that? What learning-based event I was at? But they were saying to really focus on objections, not with an adversarial mindset, but more of a curiosity mindset. And when you start to do that, you start to see objections as opportunities to learn more about where their thinking came from. And then it all goes, and I got Ray Dalio's Principles books for Christmas. And he's talking about there's always another side to the story. So seek to understand why somebody feels that they don't need to get pre-qualified before they look at homes before you start trying to school them on, the script. So that's really key. Now, you're
building rapport the whole time, right?
Yeah.
You're building rapport. You're getting more information about them. Maybe spring was important because they didn't want to change schools. Well, great. Let's talk about your kids. Who are you? How old are they? Where do they go to school? And, name them on a first name basis. Get to where that they trust you enough to tell you how important that objection is to them.
Yeah. So what you're doing, you were talking about differentiating yourself from the competition. Well, by stopping and asking more questions and dig deeper, they're like, well, nobody's ever asked me why I think that way or why I feel that way. So you are building rapport. But that leads me into my next thought, which is that I see a lot of agents that do way more talking than listening. Touch on that for us for a second.
Absolutely. I hear this all the time in calls. Okay. If you are doing 90% of the talking, you need to flip it, right? The client should be doing 90% of the talking and you're doing 10% of the questioning. Wow. Right. So what I'm looking for specifically is who's leading the conversation. Now you should be able to lead the conversation through questioning techniques, but I just want to keep exploring and I want to keep learning and agents want to keep talking. Right. And I'm just like, stop, explore that a little bit more. If you find yourself owning the conversation and trying to pitch your services or answer the deep market questions that they're not even asking yet. You need to stop. You just need to stop and let them give you more information and do the talking. And you can see the distribution when you listen to the call.
Agents are trying to sell themselves. Is that what they're doing? They're trying to sell themselves and go for the close of the appointment before really rapport is even established. And so our job is, they may be closing for an appointment with somebody or trying to sell somebody who can't even be qualified or maybe is working with another agent.
Absolutely. I see that all the time. Now, I always tell agents it's up to them on how quickly they want to get face-to-face. If you're a newbie and you need to build a pipeline and you've got an online buyer who might be 12, 18 months out, but you have the time and the opportunity to go meet with them face-to-face, do it, right? Or if you just don't have the bandwidth for that right now because your book of business is overflowing and you have too many leads to handle, then you might want to put that one in a nurture and have it drip and actually have the system work for you. But what's really important is that you don't oversell yourself, right? I even see it all the time with FSBOs, right? FSBOs have already decided they don't want to work with you. You don't have to keep selling yourself because every other agent already is. You got to figure out why they don't want to work with an agent, right? And so that's all around questioning. And the other thing that I love about FSBOs too is just coming from a place of service. Like I give them information to help them sell their house themselves. Because eventually about 60 or 90 days later, they're going to trust me enough in the information I've given them. And they're going to get exhausted with the process. They're going to call me and say, hey, Andi, I think you're right. I think I need some help. Or I'm going to say, you know what, go ahead and you sell that house yourself, but I'd love to help you find the next home. And so I come from it on a buy side. And then I'll go find that home really quickly. And guess what? Their house is still sitting there. It's not moving. They haven't had any showings, right? And then I jump in and help on the list side.
That is so valuable. It's so true. Just coming from a place of service, really no matter what. It's just coming from a place of service. And it's not about you as the agent. It's about them and their needs and their goals. So, yeah, that's huge. Okay, before I hit record and we started talking, I was like, hey, Andi, what are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm making calls. And after we get off this call, I'm going to make more calls. So you've got a lot going on. You have a coaching business. You're on a real estate team. How many hours a day do you spend making calls?
Okay, first of all, minimum of 2 hours, right? So I protect and time block 2 hours. I love Thursday afternoon. So when I tell you that I'm about to jump on my 2 hours, my Thursdays, I love 4 to 6. I will be in the office pretty much every Thursday afternoon. But I time block 2 hours a day. Okay. So I like to do them in the morning because my mindset's right. And I have my morning routine and I come in fresh, ready to just crush it on the phones. So I don't let anything else get in the way. Nothing else, right? Not, a fire that needs to be put out. I treat it as if I'm at the doctor's office. You can't get me during these 2 hours because it's my protected prospecting time. And then likewise, if for some reason the 8 to 10 or I'm not doing 9 to 11, then you can bet that I'm going to do the afternoon. I'm going to leave my 11 a.m. to my 3 o'clock to do all of the other work I need to do, whether that's my CRM work, whether that's research properties, whether that's follow up with nurtures. By the way, I keep my nurture time separate from my prospecting time. So during my 2 hours, it's 100% lead gen, new leads. Whether that's new leads that came in through the CRM that haven't been touched yet, I've got to call them for at least 14 days. So they're going to hear from me every day. Plus, I'm going to work my expireds list, or I'm going to work, whatever lead source I want to focus on that day. But the goal there, straight up lead gen. I'll do nurture later because I've already established a relationship with my nurtures. So they know when my phone rings, I've probably got something to show them or tell them. And they'll pick up my call a lot easier in the middle of the day, where my prospecting time, I might get more hangups during that time.
That's so good. All right. You are time blocking 2 hours per day. Is that 5 days a week?
5 days a week.
5 days a week. And the 2 hour time block is just for new leads?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I am smiling and dialing people who do not know me.
And if I register on your website and I'm one of your new leads, and it takes 14 dials to get me on the phone, you're going to try to reach me. My cell phone is going to ring. Andy's going to call my cell phone once a day for 14 days.
Okay, so let me back that up a little bit.
Okay.
Andy's going to try different methods of communication with you out of the gate.
Okay.
Right? I'm a huge fan of call action, right? Because call action will allow me to set up text strips. I got to figure out, first of all, how do you like to communicate with me? Do you like me to call, text, or email? Call, text, or email. I will do all three for about the first 5 days. You're going to get another call, another text, and another email from Andy. Now, sometimes my system's doing it for me, and that's the power of Boomtown and call action and those tools that the drips are designed for that. I'm never going to leave the same voicemail twice. I'm not a fan of voicemail drops because it sounded like Andy just called me again. So I'm really going to customize that voicemail. Hey, it's me again, just checking in. But you're going to bet for at least 5 days, you're going to get call, text, email, call, text, email. Then I'm going to back off a little. And then I'm going to maybe text you every 2 days or try an email, call you on the third day. But either way, leads are going to pick up, are more likely to convert and engage between the 8th and 12th attempt. 8 to 12 attempts. I coach this all the time. Well, I tried to call them for 4 days and they never picked up. Well, you only did half the work, right? So you got to spread out 8 to 12 touches in a 2-week time period. I usually drop them after 2 weeks. You will hear the 21 days of pain, like go after them for 3. I'm on to the next one by then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would depend on, because you probably have a really steady lead flow. You've got to get on to the next one. Thursdays, I've been advising people that they need to pick 1 day a week to do an evening time block.
Yep.
What have you just found that Thursdays is like you just get more people on the phone?
Absolutely. Okay, so let me tell you why I love Thursdays. A couple of reasons. You guys have probably all heard of the MIT study that showed that online buyers were more, were more receptive to picking up the call on Thursdays. It was the number one day of the week, right? The number 1 hour of the day, believe it or not, is 4 to 6. So they've heard from me in the morning at 8:30, at 9. Now I'm going to try to get them on the ride home. And I love my Thursday afternoons of prospecting. I know I'll invite other people. I make it like a mini call night. I'm like, come on, guys, who wants to do some dialing with me this afternoon? And we'll go get, some pizza. We'll just knock it out. I always get an appointment on Thursday nights. It's just really a lot of energy, and I just set my mindset for it. That's my call night. Wow.
All right. Now, before I ask you that question, here's where I was going to go. So I'm listening to this. I'm a new one of your coaching clients, and I've got here's what I find is these agents have their consumer hat on. So you're explaining this 8 to 12 touches in 14 days, and I'm going, oh my God, I hate telemarketers, and I hate people that hound me all the time, and I don't want to be one of those people, Andy. I don't want to be one of those annoying people. What are you going to say to me to set me straight?
I always say this. I say, why do you assume that the consumer wants to be sold to the same way you do? And why do you just assume that they're not going to pick up your call because maybe you hate telemarketers, right? So you don't know what else they've got going on. And by the way, there's a lot of things out there that consumers have now to block your call, to trace your call. Well, guess what? I'm going to find another creative way to get to them. But always I'm doing it from a place of service, a place of contribution. I'm just trying to help you. I saw you online, and I even use the line, I'm one of our personal online shoppers, and I'm happy to do some custom shopping for you. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for? And then I get completely out of the way of trying to sell to them, and I'm just trying to help them hunt.
Oh, that's fantastic. The other thing is, all they have to really do is follow your success, follow your earnings. If you say, listen, you're closing deals. This is what I don't understand is they want to kind of buck the system you've got going there, but it works.
It's proven. It's very proven. I learned it back when I was at Boomtown. There was a lot of data to support it. And I just got in that habit, and it is very proven. And I hear a lot, you know what else I do? I'll stalk them, right? So if I've got an appointment with you, you bet that I'm going to go stalk you. I'm going to find you all over social media. Or maybe I'm on the 4th or 5th call and I haven't built a lot of rapport. Now, I don't let them know I am, but every agent says, ooh, Andi, that feels so awful. And I'm like, that's your own perception, right? I want information about how to best serve this client. So I need to know a little bit about them. They want a farm? They got some horses? I'm going to need to find some land. Do they love their dogs? I'm going to talk about their dogs.
Right.
So those kind of things I'm just doing to build rapport. And agents need to get out of their own head thinking that, Big Brother's watching me. All right. I always say if you're on bestbuy.com and you're shopping for a Dell and you're shopping for an HP, right? Don't you think that somebody's on the other end of that website looking at every click you're making? Of course they are. So when the chat box shows up, they're going to ask you, they're not going to ask you about stereos, right? Yeah. They're going to want to know, they're going to want to try to help you get to information that you can't get already yourself.
And motivated people want to work with motivated agents. I mean, people, absolutely. Yeah, they're looking for people that hustle. You show them that you want it. Now, some people are going to hang up on you. Some people are maybe going to tell you something very vulgar, call you a name, but it's just a small percentage compared to the vast majority that want to work with you. Because you also hear that, I get agents tell me all the time, well, I don't want to force somebody to register. I mean, I hate it when I go to websites and the chat boxes pop up and the registration boxes pop up. But, to me, it just comes down, do you want to be successful or not?
Right.
I mean, This is the path. You either go knock on, you don't have to do this, go knock on some doors,
Go throw an event. That's pretty costly, but I'm going to sit and dial and I'm going to keep pounding the phone because I know what the conversion ratios are for this lead source versus this lead source. I know how many calls I have to make to have a contact. And once I make contact, I know how many contacts I have to make on that lead source to get an appointment. So I'm just looking at it from a numbers game. If here's 100 and I need 20, then I got to keep dialing.
I love that because you hear Tom Ferry talk a lot these days about success is math, the path is math, and really you can reverse engineer this to go, well, if I want to make X amount of dollars in 2019, then I need to make this many calls, I need to talk to this many people, I need to go on this many appointments. So you can really take the guesswork out of this by knowing how many contacts you need to make on the phone. So I think that would help the psychology of this. When somebody tells you no, like, oh, good, because I know I can cross that one off the list. I know I've got to talk to 9 people today to hit my goal. So talk a little bit about that a little bit. Now, how do you figure out what your conversion rate is?
I love this. Okay, so I just was at one of my favorite teams. And I've been out there several times, and I was at a training, and I'm like, okay, guys, I know you each know your distribution of where you want your business to be next year, right? And I distribute it across 3 different paradigms. Leads given to me, leads that the team gave me, paid for, right? Leads that I went and hunted, or my prospecting time, right? And then leads that came to me directly. That's my sphere and my referrals. So the first thing I ask them is, what is the distribution of the 40 units you want to do this year across those 3, right? And so a lot of times they know that answer. I'm going to do 30, 30, 30, or I'm going to do 50 in my sphere, and I'm going to split the other 25, 25. I'm like, okay, cool. Now let's talk about that. Let's go down and tell me then, how many appointments or how many clients do you have to sign to get to that goal? I think everybody I talk to, I sign. No, you don't. Right? So what is the number that you need to get to of how many appointments are you face-to-face and that you're signing that you actually closed on? Okay, so that's the first number we reverse engineer. And then I'll reverse engineer that all the way back to how many buyer appointments do you have to have this week? And how many seller appointments do you have to have this week? Treat them differently, by the way, because you can have a buyer day. Like today, I really got to focus on buyer because those numbers are low, or whatever it is. You got to kind of like focus. You got to keep them separate. And then I'll say, all right, so you have to do an appointment a day to hit these goals. So I want you to show up every day going, I'm not going to stop prospecting. I'm not going to leave the office until my appointment a day has been satisfied. It's like going to work and just, I got to sell something.
Right.
So that, and I see it all the time. Like I dialed and I didn't get anything. I'm out the door. I got to go play tennis or whatever,
Right.
You don't leave until you get the appointment. And when you have that mindset, your pipeline gets full and you don't have the challenge of having a soft pipeline waiting for referrals to come to you.
And I love that too, because it's a goal that you could have on a daily basis. I feel like most people don't really set quarterly goals. They set annual goals. They're too far removed from them. It's too far down the road. They don't track them. They write them down because the coach made them do it, or their office manager made them do it, or something. Their broker made them do it, and they never look at it again. But this is like really simple. It's an appointment a day.
Right. I teach a whole section on know the numbers, right? The first thing I do is like, okay, show me your numbers. Where are they at? Well, I have my annual goal. Okay. I have what I did last year and what I want to do this year. And I say, okay, so let's go all the way down to knowing the numbers. You have to know where you convert best, because that's where you should be spending your time. And so really knowing the math, and it's not that complicated.
Right.
It's a percentage of, and if I can help you get to what that number should be that you should be face-to-face, and that means how many dials does it take to get face-to-face? That means how much time does it take and what kind of dialers are you using to get there? Whatever that is, you got to know the numbers. And when I show up and an agent says, I don't know, we start there. We start with getting all the way back down to what do you have to do each day?
Yeah, because even if the agent comes to you and they've never done any measuring or tracking, they could use the national averages on conversion rates and things to kind of reverse engineer this and just come up with a basic number. Because really, I think if you want to make, $50,000 a year, you need to have like 9 or 10 conversations a day. So there's just some averages here that they can play with until they get enough calls under their belt where they can really put some science behind it.
Absolutely. I love that, because you're going to start realizing through your career what you are a rock star at, right? You're going to figure out that it takes you only 10 contacts with a expired to get an appointment, where if you're a rock star at that versus, it's harder for me to work online buyers. They feel like they're so far out. So you got to kind of figure out, and then you also need to figure out where's your price point, right? So start out taking anything. Start out taking whatever you can get to fill your pipeline, because those are going to turn into lifelong clients that are going to turn into referrals.
Right.
So start off just chasing whatever you can. As you get more experience, then you can start saying, I only want this price point. I only want this market. I only want this lead source. Right. But until you get there, go chase it and go learn and experience it. And if it doesn't feel right, you failed forward. Try the next one.
Yeah. So, real estate is not a one size fits all, industry. There's a lot of different ways to make money. You saying that internet lead generation, online lead generation is an incredibly efficient way to do it.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of efficient tools out there to help you manage that process, but you've got to put the time into making your calls, right? Just the system there is. Oh, by the way, I also always say there is no substitute for the call, Okay. I do know that 70% of leads will engage with you now over text, which is awesome. They're much willing to engage that way. That's not how I qualify. And and I can ask for an appointment over text. I can go all the way through and meet you face to face, and but I really don't understand your motivation, and I don't understand, what your objections are over text messaging. You have to pick up the phone and make the call. So I kind of go with that old saying that nothing yet replaces the call.
Yeah, we've still got, you would probably believe this more than most, having roots in Alabama, but, we still have people that are running real estate schools, even brokerages that are saying that internet leads are junk.
Yeah.
In 2019, internet leads are a waste of time. You need to be working your sphere of influence. You'd be doing open houses and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, I've got so many clients of mine. I've got a good friend of mine out in Utah. 90% of his business is online leads. And he has cultivated that. Now, don't get me wrong. We have agents here that are awesome door knockers. I call them, it's all just a different leg of the stool, right? But you can't tell me that online shopping is junk leads, especially when the consumers know what's out there on the internet. And by the way, I just bought my first car online, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm so sorry to all my friends who are car salesmen, but I will never go to a dealership again because I could find all the information I needed. The process was easy for me and it showed up. So, we got to figure out ways to look at that pattern, those buying patterns, and using, the information and the intelligence that these systems are telling us to be able to go and have meaningful conversations with the lead.
I'm not sure what the averages are for team conversion rates, but they say that I think in industry average for online lead generation, the conversion rate is about 2.5%. Mm-hmm. And I recently interviewed Jason Posnick, who is on the Lisa Chinati team out of the Boston, Massachusetts area. He was talking about war dialing. Do you have any experience with war dialing? I'm just curious to know if you believe in it or if you're pro or anti war dialing.
I am pro quality over quantity.
Okay.
So you will see me chase low-hanging fruit before I just go after anything. I do believe that when I see more activity from a particular lead, that's low-hanging fruit. When I see more activity on a particular property, that's low-hanging fruit. I'm looking for patterns even in social media. Are they really engaging with us on Facebook? And so I am actually kind of trying to figure out what is it that they're looking for so that I can go answer that. Now, that's not to say that I don't do the numbers game too, but I'm always going to have a more meaningful conversation if I can, because I'm going to immediately establish credibility.
Yeah, this brought up a thought. I was having a consult with one of the agents of my team this morning, and he was asking me about ways to build rapport if a lead does not answer the phone, if they're not responding to the text, or even Facebook Messenger. I found that Facebook Messenger is a really awesome tool. So my suggestion was, and I would love to hear your thoughts to see if I was on the right track in terms of advising this agent. When I was in his shoes, and if I saw that somebody favorited a property, or maybe they looked at one 3 or 4 times, maybe they shared it with a friend, if I couldn't get them on the phone to engage with them on that particular property, I would call the listing agent and go, hey, I've got a lead that's hot after this property. Give me something that I can't see in the MLS. Yeah. Or I'd look in the agent remarks. Maybe there's something there, like an allowance or something I could share. And if the agent said, hey, there's nothing, everything that's, available in the MLS, that's all I can tell you, then maybe I'd get an insurance quote. Maybe I'd look up taxes or HOA information. Have you found that working for these leads, being their agent before you actually get hired as their agent is a way to actually increase conversion?
Anything that I can do to be, I come from a consultative sale background. Okay. So I've spent a lot of time in big corporate America teaching people how to have consultative sales and developing those relationships. I'm a consultant at heart. So consultants do what? We give you information that you need to make a decision. Right. And so I always come from a place of what can I give you that you can't get on your own? And I'll just drop it. Right. I'll just drop little nuggets. And as I'm dropping nuggets, I'm becoming the authoritarian on this subject or this property, and I'm showing that I'm trying to help them. So it's my brand that's hitting them over and over again. It's my name. And then they're going to start to recognize, wow, she does work hard for me, and she's not even done. I haven't paid her anything for this. Right. This is what I call a give to get. A give to get is when I give you some kind of information, and in return, I'm going to hopefully get your business. So we do it a lot in corporate America. We give away a lot of services. And so I apply the same thing to my real estate practice.
And it works.
I do the same thing with my coaching. Yeah.
I mean, people are they're just overcomplicating this. But I would say, just to kind of in wrapping this up, that internet lead generation and conversion and phone prospecting, I mean, is it fair to say it's not for everybody?
I would absolutely say it's fair to say that, because I have seen some agents work themselves up into such a mindset tizzy that it turns them off of it and they forget what they're really good at. I have a great mentor of mine who's going to be speaking at Impact, Jeff Cohn. Jeff will tell me all the time, he'll say, Andi, some of the agents are just going to be better out face to face. And so I don't want to have to restrict them from that. You got to find what your strength is and play to that. And then you got to, and especially as a team leader, you can't treat everybody the same. I hate it when, I see that all agents have this, the same types of requirements or whatever you need to be on that team. But we all are different. And if you want to build a powerful team, you got to look at each individual player's strengths and what they bring to the team. And if that's not on the phone, maybe it's door knocking, maybe it's events, maybe it's social media, whatever that is, find your thing and just crush it and be the best at it.
Now, in terms of learning base, I want to just, in concluding this interview, talk about, because you're very learning based.
Yes.
You go to a lot of events, you have a lot of mentors. You mentioned Jeff Cohn. I can remember just catching a YouTube video where I can't remember whether it was Matt Johnson interviewing or who it was, but it was a few years ago. And I had just, when I first got Boomtown, we were generating like 700 leads a month just on Craigslist. And I was posting Craigslist ads to my phone. I mean, any chance I got, I was pumping Craigslist ads out because the leads would just pour in. Craigslist, kind of went away. And I was watching a podcast video recording where Jeff was being interviewed, and he was like, Craigslist is back. And he laid out this whole strategy for, generating leads with Craigslist. Now it's not 700 leads a month, but it's more like 100, but still that's 100 free leads a month coming into my CRM. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't make time to explore YouTube, subscribe to channels, and actually make time to consume this content. So, I mean, you're obviously successful, Andi. You're a coach. You've reached this level in your business where you can actually train and be a mentor to others. Why in the world do you still need to pay money to go to these events?
That's a very good question. First of all, I'm a sponge for knowledge. Okay, so that has been part of who I am since I was, but my career has all been around training, right? I've been training sales teams since I was 22 years old. So at some place, I really go to these events for 3 reasons. The first reason, obviously, to just get knowledge. The people that are on your agenda are some of the biggest thinkers in the business. When I saw the lineup, I call it the lineup. And by the way, I've done conferences for 25 years, right? So I know how important it is to be out there and to be learning and to energize myself. But the people that you have are some of what I consider in my repertoire, the biggest thinkers that make me think big. So I go there, first of all, to reset my own mind and be like, it's time to think bigger, Andi. The second reason why I go is because I have been on those stages. I go to give back, right? So maybe I give a little bit of nuggets at a cocktail party, or maybe I go give my energy to Tom and Sharon and those guys that are on stage. We soak it up, right? So we are energized as speakers from the energy that comes from the room. So I feel like, listen, you guys have given me so much. I want to give you back my time and my attention. And then the third reason why I go really is just to learn what's the latest and greatest, right? So I get to see a lot of it before it ever hits the market, or I've heard about it in some kind of network that I'm in or mastermind group. but really getting to go and hear like, ooh, I need to dial that in. Ooh, I need to try that. And by the way, I always say, you're going to have a list of things that you come back from Impact with. I want to do this, 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 and this. Take the top 3.
Right.
Take the top 3 and go implement them. Put a mini project plan together, because I'm a consultant.
Right.
That says, I'm going to implement this idea in this time frame, and these are my milestones that I'm going to do to get there, and here's how I'm going to measure my success, and just run with it. Don't try to bite off everything that you're going to hear at once.
I love it. Yeah, that goes. John Chiplak says, he's always saying, how much by when? How much by when?
Yep.
All right, so I've got a referral. I want to buy a house, sell a house in Charleston. How do you want people to get in touch with you if they've got referrals? Do you want them to reach out to you the same way via Facebook, or where?
Hey,
yeah,
I'm a heavy texter. I'm going to give my number out right here.
Okay.
I am totally about it. So call me at 678-428-9461. Okay? 678-428-9461. Blow my phone up, and I'm happy to send referrals to you guys too. Charleston is an awesome market. It's an awesome second home market. And I actually work with a lot of investors who are up and down the coastal Carolina. Beautiful coastline.
Awesome. Well, Andi, thanks so much for joining us on the Impact Agent Podcast. We didn't even get to ISAs, but I just want to plant that seed. So hopefully we can do this again and talk about ISAs, because that is like a conundrum in our industry right now. I mean, there is so much chatter about whether it's worth it, not worth it, inbound, outbound. I mean, the whole thing. So
I got a whole lot of thought on that too, and experience, right? There's a time and a place to do it, and we can definitely talk about that at a future podcast.
I hope so. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Impact Agent Podcast. If you liked the show and got something out of it, please like the Impact Agent Podcast on Facebook and rate and review the show on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. This really helps us grow the show and helps other agents find it. Please share it with your friends and coworkers as well. You want us to deliver the show to you via email every week? Then email me at jason@impactagentuniversity.com and we'll send you the show every week. Please let us know what you think about the show, what you like, what you don't, or possibly make a suggestion about a topic you want to hear. Email me at jason@impactagentuniversity.com or leave us a message on Facebook at Impact Agent Podcast. Until next week, everybody be productive, safe, and happy, and always keep learning. This podcast is produced by Johnny Gwynn at Deep Fried Studios in Mobile, Alabama, and is paid for and powered by ImpactAgentUniversity.com.